The quiet of space was shattered by the sudden appearance of an immense alien fleet. As the massive ships entered Earth's orbit, the sky above seemed to darken, as if the stars themselves had been swallowed by an unstoppable force. For the people of Earth, the silence of space had always been a symbol of peace, but now it felt like the calm before the storm. Earth's defense systems, once the most advanced in the galaxy, were suddenly rendered useless in the face of this overwhelming alien force. The alarm bells rang across military bases, and panic spread through the world's capital cities. On Earth, people had always prided themselves on being the masters of their own fate, the dominant species in the universe. But now, faced with this invasion, humanity's pride and technology seemed like nothing more than a brittle shield against an unstoppable force. Captain Bonner stood in the command center, watching the chaos unfold. His heart raced as the data on his screen told a grim story. The alien ships were cloaked, invisible to their radars. Earth's best weapons, its most advanced defense systems, were useless. The enemy was out of their reach. The fleet was massive, hundreds of warships, each one larger than the largest human-made structures. Their shapes were unlike anything humanity had seen before, sleek and monstrous, designed for battle. Their cloaking devices rendered them invisible, while their eye-controlled drones swarmed like a deadly swarm of bees. Even Earth's most experienced pilots, the best soldiers the planet had, found themselves unable to land a single successful hit on the aliens. And then the ground attack began. Alien forces began to drop to Earth's surface, their ships releasing small pods that crashed into major cities. These were no ordinary soldiers. Each alien soldier was a giant, their armor resembling black metallic shells, their faces hidden beneath helmets with glowing red eyes. The Earth's military had no way to stop them. They fought valiantly, but their weapons, too slow, too weak, were no match for the alien onslaught. The battle was fierce, but the humans were losing. Each attempt to stop the invaders only led to more deaths. The alien forces were organized, methodical, and merciless. Captain Bonner watched as his best soldiers fell, one by one, in battle. Their bodies were left behind, scattered in the streets, while the alien forces pressed forward. The resistance, once strong and confident, was crumbling. The world's leaders called for a global alliance, uniting forces to fight the invaders. But even with every nation contributing their best technology and soldiers, it wasn't enough. They were simply outmatched, outclassed. As the alien ships hovered ominously above Earth's major cities, it seemed like the end was inevitable. Humanity was on the brink of extinction, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. As Captain Bonner looked out over the shattered command center, he could feel the weight of failure pressing down on him. His mind raced for a solution. There had to be something they could do, something humanity had that the aliens didn't expect. He refused to accept defeat, not while there was even a shred of hope left. In a small, dimly lit room deep within the Earth Defense Command Center, a team of scientists worked frantically. They had one final option, but it was a long shot. The technology they were about to deploy had never been tested in battle. It was their last chance. If this failed, humanity would fall. There would be no coming back from this. The weapon they had developed was a type of cloaking technology that could render the human forces invisible to the alien drones. It was a desperate move, but it was all they had left. It wouldn't stop the aliens entirely, but it could give them the opportunity to strike back. With no time to waste, Captain Bonner gathered his team. "We launch everything we have left. We won't go down without a fight," he said, his voice low but filled with determination. "This is our planet, and we are going to protect it, no matter what it takes." As the last remaining fighters prepped for launch, Bonner's mind raced through the memories of the fallen soldiers, his friends, his brothers in arms, who had given their lives for this moment. He couldn't let their sacrifice be in vain. The future of humanity depended on the courage of a few, a small group of soldiers who would fight till the bitter end. The battle raged on, the final stand against the invaders beginning in the skies above Earth. Fighter jets, equipped with the new cloaking devices, soared into the alien fleet, hoping against hope that their invisibility would buy them enough time to land a critical blow. But the aliens were prepared for this. Their AI systems were too advanced. The cloaking technology helped, but it wasn't enough to even the odds. Captain Bonner's ship, one of the last remaining vessels in the fight, broke through the alien defenses. As the massive alien ships loomed ahead, Bonner could feel the weight of his choices pressing down on him. He knew that if they didn't succeed, this would be the final chapter for humanity. The fate of the entire human race rested on the shoulders of a few brave soldiers. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, Bonner's resolve did not falter. He had one last trick up his sleeve. The weapon, the final attempt to break the alien eye. If it worked, it could turn the tide in their favor. If not, humanity would face its extinction with its head held high, knowing they had fought until the very end. The weapon was activated, and as the cloaking devices flickered, a burst of energy shot toward the alien flagship. The ground shook beneath Bonner's feet as the weapon struck its target. The alien flagship shuddered, its systems failing as the AI collapsed under the intense wave of energy. But there was no time to celebrate. The battle was far from over. For Bonner, this was only the beginning. If they were to survive, it would take everything humanity had. Its courage, its will, and its creativity. The last stand of humanity had only just begun. The battle above Earth raged on, but despite humanity's best efforts, the alien invaders continued their merciless assault. Cities were left in ruins, and hope seemed to be slipping through humanity's fingers. Yet in the midst of this overwhelming despair, a small, unlikely group of survivors refused to give up. They knew that if humanity was going to stand a chance against the alien menace, they would need to fight in ways the invaders never expected. Captain Bonner was one of the few to survive the initial wave of attacks. His heart was heavy with the loss of his comrades, but he knew he couldn't afford to grieve. There was still work to be done, and the fight for humanity's survival had only just begun. His mind raced as he thought about the future. There had to be something left to fight for. The resistance began to form in the underground bunkers, hidden deep beneath Earth's surface. These were places of refuge, far away from the devastation above, where the last remnants of humanity could regroup and plan their next move. It wasn't much, but it was all they had. Bonner had seen firsthand the sheer power of the alien forces, and he knew they had to be careful. Any mistake could mean the end of what remained of Earth. Bonner quickly reached out to military leaders, scientists, and even former civilians who had experience in combat. He understood that Earth's best hope lay not just in advanced weapons or technology, but in the willpower and resourcefulness of its people. As the survivors gathered, a new spirit began to rise among them, an unshakable determination to fight for their planet and for the future of every living being on it. Among the survivors was a young woman named Lyra. She had been born on another planet, far from Earth, and had spent much of her life as a slave to the alien forces. But when the invasion began, Lyra's life had taken a dramatic turn. After being captured and taken to Earth, she managed to escape the clutches of her captors, finding herself stranded in a world she knew little about. She was alone, terrified, and unsure of who to trust. At first, she thought of returning to her own people, but everything had changed. Her homeworld was now a part of the alien empire, and she knew she could never go back. But humanity had shown her something she had never experienced before: compassion. The humans, despite their own struggles, had shown kindness to her when they didn't have to. And now, as the resistance began to form, Lyra felt a strange sense of duty toward them. She could help them, she thought. Maybe, just maybe, she could be the key to their survival. Lyra's alien background gave her an advantage. The humans knew this. She understood the invaders' tactics, their language, and their technology. She had been a part of the alien military system for years, and though she had never been one of their elite soldiers, she knew enough about their operations to provide crucial insight into their weaknesses. Bonner, realizing the value of her knowledge, welcomed her into the resistance. But Lyra was conflicted. She had grown up under the harsh rule of the alien forces, and now, with the opportunity to help humanity, she was torn. The guilt of betraying her own kind weighed heavily on her, and she often found herself questioning whether she was doing the right thing. But every time she saw the suffering of the humans around her, every time she witnessed their courage and determination, she grew more and more certain that her place was with them. As days passed, the resistance slowly began to take shape. Bonner and his team worked tirelessly to gather information, recruit more soldiers, and develop strategies for attacking the alien invaders. They didn't have the luxury of time, but they had something else the aliens didn't: the ability to think outside the box. The Resistance's first major operation was a daring raid on one of the alien supply bases. It was a risky move, but it was their best chance to strike back and send a message to the invaders. Bonner's team was small but skilled, made up of soldiers who had survived the initial attack and civilians with special skills that might be of use in this war. Each person was given a role to play, and together, they formed a tight-knit unit. The plan was simple: infiltrate the supply base, sabotage the alien equipment, and get out without being detected. Lyra's role was crucial in this mission. Using her knowledge of alien technology and military procedures, she was able to guide the team through the alien defenses. She showed them how to bypass security systems, avoid patrols, and take down the alien drones silently. Her presence gave the team an edge, and despite the odds, they managed to breach the base. Inside the base, the team moved swiftly and carefully, planting explosives on key infrastructure points and gathering valuable intel. The mission was going smoothly, until an unexpected event occurred. As they were preparing to leave, a group of alien soldiers arrived, having detected their presence. A fierce firefight broke out, and the resistance fighters were forced to retreat. Bonner and his team fought valiantly, but the aliens were well trained, and their advanced weapons made the battle even more challenging. During the chaos, Lyra found herself face to face with an alien officer, a towering figure clad in dark armor. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as she recognized the officer. It was someone she had known from her past, a reminder of the life she had left behind. The officer, recognizing her as well, hesitated for a brief second. But that moment of hesitation was enough. Lyra's training kicked in, and with a swift, precise move, she took the officer down, saving the rest of the team. The rest of the fight was hard, but eventually they managed to destroy the base and escape. The raid was a success, but it came at a cost. Several members of the team were injured, and one soldier had fallen in battle. Their victory, though sweet, was bittersweet. Lyra was haunted by the death of her comrades, but she knew that each victory brought them one step closer to reclaiming their world. The resistance was growing stronger, and Bonner's team was proving to be a force the aliens couldn't ignore. In the aftermath of the mission, the group took a moment to mourn their fallen comrades. They knew that the road ahead would be long and full of hardships, but there was no turning back now. The resistance had formed, and they were ready to fight. The alien invaders had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to learn just how resilient the human spirit could be. The war for Earth was far from over, but the spark of rebellion had been lit, and it was only a matter of time before it would ignite into a full-blown revolution. As the war between humans and the alien invaders raged on, humanity's survival rested on the shoulders of those who had the courage to fight back against overwhelming odds. The alien forces, with their advanced technology, had been crushing humanity's defenses with ease. Their drones, cloaking devices, and AI-controlled warships seemed unstoppable. Yet there was something that the aliens hadn't counted on: human ingenuity. Captain Bonner and his small but growing resistance group had learned the hard way that they couldn't rely solely on brute force. Every battle was a struggle, and for every step forward, they had to pay a heavy price. But in their desperate situation, they had begun to realize that their greatest weapon wasn't in their firepower or their advanced technology. It was their creativity and resourcefulness. If they were to have any hope of winning this war, they would need to outsmart the aliens at every turn. The alien invaders were powerful, but they were also predictable. They relied heavily on their AI systems to control everything, from their weaponry to their tactical strategies. Their eye was cold, calculating, and precise, but it lacked the ability to think outside the box, to adapt in ways humans could. And that was where the humans had the advantage. The Resistance knew they had to use every trick in the book, every tool at their disposal, to turn the tide of the war. Lyra, with her knowledge of the alien systems, had become an invaluable asset to the Resistance. Her understanding of the aliens' tactics and technology allowed her to help the Resistance come up with new and unexpected strategies. But it wasn't just her knowledge of the enemy that made her a valuable ally. It was her willingness to think differently. While the aliens relied on predictable patterns, Lyra taught the humans to think unconventionally, to use the aliens' own technology against them in ways they would never expect. One of the first major victories the Resistance achieved using human ingenuity came during a covert mission to disable one of the alien warships. The ship was one of the most formidable in the alien fleet, a massive vessel equipped with energy shields that made it nearly invulnerable to conventional weapons. The alien fleet had been using it as a command ship, directing their attacks on Earth's cities. The Resistance knew they had to destroy it, but taking it down head-on was impossible. Instead, they came up with a plan to infiltrate the ship using the same cloaking devices the aliens had been using against them. It was a risky move, and everyone involved knew that if anything went wrong, they would be caught in the act and likely killed. But it was their only option. Lyra helped them hack into the alien network, and together they managed to disable the cloaking system on their own ships. The Resistance team then cloaked their vessels and approached the alien warship undetected. As they got closer, Bonner and his team launched a series of strikes at the ship's weak points, targeting its energy core, which they knew would be vulnerable if hit in the right way. The human fighters were outnumbered, but their speed and ingenuity allowed them to stay one step ahead of the aliens. The plan worked. The energy core of the alien warship was destroyed, sending a massive shockwave through the fleet. The ship was rendered useless, and with its destruction, the aliens lost a key command vessel. The humans celebrated this victory, but they knew it was just one battle in a much larger war. It was a small victory, but it sent a powerful message. Humanity was not going down without a fight. Over the next few weeks, the Resistance's tactics grew bolder. With each success, they gained confidence, and their operations became more daring. They struck at alien supply lines, sabotaged critical infrastructure, and launched surprise attacks on alien communication networks. Every time they made progress, it seemed like the aliens were one step behind, scrambling to react to humanity's unpredictable tactics. Bonner, ever the strategist, was always thinking ahead. He knew that the key to defeating the aliens wasn't just in attacking their forces, but in breaking their will to fight. The more the aliens struggled to adapt, the more likely it was that their morale would begin to crumble. The Resistance's success didn't just rely on their ability to outsmart the aliens. It was also about sending a message to the invaders that they weren't invincible, that they could be beaten. One of the most daring plans the Resistance put into action was a large-scale assault on a heavily fortified alien research facility. This facility was believed to be working on a new type of weapon, one that could potentially turn the tide of the war in the aliens' favor. The facility was surrounded by a network of advanced defense systems, including automated turrets and drones that would wipe out any intruders within seconds. The Resistance knew that if they were to have any hope of taking the facility, they would need to use every ounce of their creativity and resourcefulness. Bonner and his team devised a plan that was as unconventional as it was dangerous. They couldn't attack the facility directly. Instead, they created a diversion by hacking into one of the alien drones and sending it on a rampage through the nearby alien camps. The chaos it caused allowed the resistance to slip past the facility's defenses undetected. Once inside, they used their knowledge of the alien systems to disable the security protocols and destroy the facility's mainframe. The operation was risky, and several members of the team were injured, but the mission was a success. The alien weapon research was set back months, and the resistance gained critical intelligence on the aliens' future plans. It was a massive blow to the alien invaders, and the humans knew they had gained an edge. They weren't just fighting with their weapons. They were fighting with their minds, using the aliens' own tools against them. But the aliens weren't going to give up so easily. They began to learn from their mistakes, adapting their tactics to counter the humans' ingenuity. They developed countermeasures to the Resistance's cloaking technology and began deploying more advanced drones to track down and eliminate any Resistance fighters. The humans, however, were ready for the challenge. They had learned that when facing a superior force, the key to victory was never to play by the enemy's rules. The Resistance had already proved that humanity could survive against overwhelming odds, and with each new success, their resolve only grew stronger. They knew the war was far from over, but they also knew that they had the one thing the aliens could never replicate: human creativity, adaptability, and an unwavering will to fight for the future. With their ingenuity and determination, they would continue to push forward, one victory at a time, until Earth was free. The Resistance had been growing stronger with every passing day. Humanity had been battered, broken, and pushed to the edge of extinction, yet they had found a way to fight back. Captain Bonner, Lyra, and the rest of the survivors had defied the alien invaders in ways that no one had thought possible. Their ingenuity, resourcefulness, and sheer will to survive had allowed them to accomplish the impossible. The aliens had begun to lose ground, but the most dangerous part of war wasn't the enemy outside. It was often the betrayal that came from within. The Resistance had been carefully building alliances. Trust was in short supply, but they knew they had to rely on each other if they were going to stand any chance of winning this war. Bonner had always believed in the strength of his team. They had fought together, lost together, and bled together. They were a family, bound not by blood, but by their shared determination to protect Earth and all they held dear. But what Bonner hadn't accounted for was that not everyone in their ranks was as committed to the cause as he had believed. It started with small, subtle things. Information from their missions began to get delayed. Supplies they had requisitioned would mysteriously go missing. Lyra noticed it first. There were whispers in the camp, rumors of people growing disillusioned with the fight. But no one was bold enough to speak out openly. The humans, desperate for any edge they could get, had taken to using every ally they could find, even those with questionable loyalties. Lyra, who had once been a slave to the aliens, had struggled with her own loyalty to Earth, but she had chosen to fight for them. Still, even she could sense that some were not as genuine in their commitment. One night, as the Resistance prepared for a major assault on an alien communications tower, Bonner called a meeting. He gathered his closest lieutenants, including Lyra, to discuss the plan. They had learned that the aliens were trying to regroup and reorganize, and the communication tower would be key in disrupting their coordination. It was a critical mission. The success of the operation would severely damage the aliens' ability to continue the war. Bonner laid out the plan in front of the group. It was daring and dangerous, but that's what they had come to expect from this war. "We strike at dawn," Bonner said firmly. "We'll hit them fast, hit them hard, and leave before they can even react. This is our chance to cripple their ability to communicate and buy us some breathing room. Everyone knows their roles." Lyra was about to offer her input when she noticed something strange. One of the Resistance's higher-ranking members, Lieutenant Marcus, seemed oddly distant, his eyes focused on the map, but not really seeing it. Marcus had been with them from the beginning, a loyal and trusted officer. But that night, there was something in his demeanor that made Lyra uneasy. She couldn't place it, but she knew something was off. As the night wore on, the feeling of unease only deepened. Lyra and Bonner stayed up late, going over the mission details one last time. They discussed every possible angle, checking and rechecking their plans. But Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She couldn't put her finger on it, but her instincts were telling her to trust her gut. The next morning, the assault began. Bonner's team, with Lyra by his side, infiltrated the alien communications tower under the cover of darkness. Their cloaking devices worked well, allowing them to move undetected as they made their way through the alien perimeter. The operation was going smoothly. Too smoothly. It wasn't until they reached the inner sanctum of the tower that the betrayal was revealed. As Bonner and Lyra were preparing to plant explosives, they heard the sound of footsteps behind them. They spun around just in time to see Lieutenant Marcus step out from the shadows, his weapon aimed directly at them. His face was cold, his eyes devoid of the loyalty and compassion that had once made him a trusted ally. Bonner's heart sank as the truth hit him. Marcus had been working with the aliens all along. He had been feeding them information, betraying the resistance from within. The mission had been a trap, set up to lure Bonner and the others into a position where they could be eliminated. "What are you doing, Marcus?" Bonner demanded, his voice filled with disbelief and anger. "We fought together. We trusted you." Marcus smirked, his expression hardening as he lowered his weapon just slightly. "You were always too idealistic, Bonner. Too naive. The aliens offered me a future, a place in their empire. You were just a means to an end, a stepping stone." Lyra stepped forward, her fists clenched in anger. "You betrayed us. You betrayed Earth. After everything we've been through, this is how you repay us." Her voice was sharp, but there was a raw sadness in it. She had trusted Marcus too. Marcus didn't respond at first. His gaze shifted between Lyra and Bonner, but it was clear he wasn't going to back down. He had made his choice, and he wasn't going to let sentiment or loyalty get in the way now. "We don't have time for this," he finally said, his voice growing colder. "The aliens are already on their way. You're outnumbered. You've lost." Bonner knew he had to make a decision, and fast. He wasn't going to let Marcus succeed. The resistance couldn't afford any more losses, and certainly not one as devastating as this. With a quick move, Bonner reached for his weapon, signaling Lyra to stay behind cover. Marcus fired first, the blast hitting the wall near Bonner, but the captain was quicker. He fired back, narrowly missing Marcus, who ducked behind a column for cover. A tense standoff ensued, both sides exchanging gunfire. Bonner was a trained soldier, but Marcus knew the layout of the building. He was prepared. And just as Bonner was about to make his move, a second wave of alien soldiers appeared, their presence revealed by the betrayal. They stormed the room, their weapons raised. The aliens had been tipped off. Marcus had set them up for a trap, just as he had planned. The resistance had been outmaneuvered. The odds had shifted dramatically against them. Bonner and Lyra fought back, taking down several of the alien soldiers, but the betrayal had already taken its toll. Marcus stood at the back of the room, watching with a cold, detached expression as his former comrades fought and fell. His plan had worked, at least for the moment. But Bonner wasn't done yet. He wasn't going to let the resistance fall apart because of one man's treachery. "Fall back," he shouted to his team. "We'll fight another day. This isn't over." As they retreated, Lyra cast one last, furious glance at Marcus. He had turned his back on them, but they wouldn't let his betrayal define them. They had lost the battle, but the war was far from over. They had to regroup, rebuild, and come back stronger than ever. And this time, they would make sure Marcus would pay for his treason. The resistance had been dealt a painful blow, but Bonner knew that they couldn't afford to give up. There was still hope. There was still a chance to win this war, and they would fight for it, no matter what. The war had dragged on for what felt like a lifetime. Humanity had fought valiantly, each victory a spark of hope in the darkness. Yet every step forward came with its own price. The resistance had been pushed to the brink, each battle leaving them scared and weary. but they never stopped fighting. And now, after months of skirmishes and painful losses, the final battle had arrived. The alien invaders, who had once seemed unstoppable, had begun to falter. The humans, against all odds, had learned their weaknesses and exploited them. They had crippled the alien supply lines, disrupted their communications, and crippled their fleet. The resistance had gained momentum. It was no longer just about survival. It was about taking back their planet. Captain Bonner stood with Lyra, looking out over the vast battlefield that lay before them. The final assault was about to begin. In the distance, they could see the massive alien command ships hovering above the Earth's surface, their weapons aimed and ready to unleash destruction. The resistance had gathered everything they had: soldiers, civilians, and technology, preparing for this last push. Bonner knew that this battle would determine the fate of humanity. Win, and they would push the invaders off Earth. Lose, and the aliens would reign supreme. "We're ready," Bonner said, turning to Lyra. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed the weight of the moment. It was a feeling they had all shared, hope mixed with uncertainty. They had prepared for this, but no one could predict what would happen next. Lyra nodded. She had been by Bonner's side through every battle, every loss, and every triumph. She had seen the human spirit shine brighter than ever before. But now, the time had come to make the ultimate sacrifice. The plan was simple but dangerous: break through the alien defenses, disable their weapons, and take down their command ship. They knew the risks, but it was the only way. The resistance fighters gathered in the underground base one last time before the battle. The air was thick with tension, but there was also a sense of unity. Each soldier knew that they were fighting not just for their survival, but for the future of their children, their families, and their home. They had endured so much already, and they couldn't stop now. Bonner addressed the troops, his voice firm and resolute. "This is it, people. This is our moment. We've lost too much already to let it all go to waste. We fight for each other, for Earth, for the future. Today, we show the aliens what humanity is made of." The crowd erupted in a cheer, their spirits lifted by Bonner's words. It was a moment of defiance, a moment that united them all. They were ready. The assault began at dawn. The humans, equipped with the most advanced weapons they had developed, marched toward the battlefield, their hearts set on victory. The aliens, knowing the attack was coming, prepared for the inevitable conflict. Their warships hovered menacingly in the sky, their immense size and strength a reminder of just how much power they had. Lyra led a small group of soldiers to the front lines, using her knowledge of the alien technology to disable key defense systems and allow the human forces to advance. As they moved through the battlefield, the sound of gunfire and explosions filled the air. The aliens fought with ruthless efficiency, but the humans fought with something more: desperation and hope. The first few minutes of the battle were chaotic. Humans and aliens clashed in a brutal exchange of fire, each side trying to gain the upper hand. The resistance pushed forward, but the alien forces were formidable. Their drones and automated soldiers proved to be deadly opponents, and the humans had to fight tooth and nail for every inch of ground they gained. Bonner led the main assault force toward the alien command ship. The massive structure loomed overhead, its dark, intimidating form casting a shadow over the battlefield. It was the heart of the alien operation, and if they could disable it, they would cripple the invaders' ability to continue their assault. The journey toward the command ship was perilous. Alien soldiers came at them from every direction, their weapons firing relentlessly. But the resistance soldiers fought back with everything they had. They had no choice but to press on. Every soldier knew the stakes. Every inch gained was another step closer to victory. Lyra and her team worked quickly to sabotage the alien communication systems. The command ship's defenses began to flicker as their control systems went offline. The alien soldiers were thrown into disarray, unable to communicate with their commanders. It was a small victory, but it gave the humans the opening they needed. Bonner, leading the charge, reached the command ship's outer hull. The entrance was guarded by a group of heavily armored aliens, but the resistance had prepared for this. Using explosives, they breached the ship's outer defenses and fought their way inside. The corridors of the command ship were filled with strange alien technology, but Bonner and his team didn't hesitate. They fought through the narrow halls, taking down alien soldiers one by one, until they reached the central control room. Inside, the alien commanders were waiting for them. These were the leaders who had orchestrated the invasion, the masterminds behind the destruction of Earth's cities. They were cold, calculating beings, with no empathy for the lives they had destroyed. They underestimated humanity, though. They never anticipated the sheer determination and willpower the humans would show. The final confrontation was brutal. Bonner's team fought fiercely, pushing back against the aliens who tried to stop them. Lyra, using her knowledge of alien technology, managed to hack into the control systems, disabling the command ship's defenses. But it wasn't enough. The aliens fought back with everything they had, and the battle reached a boiling point. Bonner and Lyra found themselves face to face with the alien commander, a towering figure clad in dark armor. The commander's eyes glowed with an eerie light as it prepared to strike. But Bonner was not afraid. He had seen too much, lost too much, to let fear stop him now. With a final, decisive move, he lunged at the alien commander, his weapon striking true. The alien commander fell, its body collapsing to the ground in a heap. With their leader defeated, the remaining alien forces began to retreat. The humans, though battered and bloodied, had won. The command ship was crippled, and the alien forces were thrown into chaos. Without their leadership, the remaining invaders had no choice but to retreat, their morale shattered. As the last of the alien ships vanished into the sky, the humans stood victorious. The battlefield was littered with the bodies of both humans and aliens, a testament to the brutal cost of the war. But humanity had endured. Against all odds, they had won. Earth was theirs once more. Bonner looked around at the survivors, his heart swelling with pride. They had fought for each other, for their planet, and for the future. And in the end, they had prevailed. The war was over, but the scars it had left would last forever. The price of victory had been high, but it was a price they were willing to pay. As the humans celebrated their hard-earned victory, Bonner and Lyra stood at the edge of the battlefield, looking out at the horizon. They had saved Earth, but they knew that rebuilding would take time. The journey wasn't over, but for the first time in a long while, there was hope. The human spirit had proven its strength, and no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Earth had been saved, and humanity had shown the universe that they would never give up.